Hi, this is Mr. Nazarian. Our lesson objective today is I can multiply multi-digit numbers using multiplication clusters. It's 5th grade standard, numbers base 10, B5. So we're going to be multiplying with multi-digit numbers again today. However, we're going to use a different strategy. This one's called multiplication clusters. And so what that looks like is it's kind of similar to yesterday in that instead of looking at the big numbers we're going to be multiplying together, we're just going to take them chunk by chunk. And that's where the terminology clusters comes from. It's just little parts that we're then going to put together later. So instead of trying to figure out right away what 425 times 19 is, which is 19 groups of 425, instead we'll break them up into groups that maybe are more manageable. And the neat thing about this is it's all going to look different depending on just kind of how your brain works and what makes sense to you with the numbers. And that's something that this year I want you to get just really, really familiar with numbers. I want numbers to be our friends. So the way that I interact with the numbers might be a little bit different than how you do because we have different relationships and our minds work slightly differently. So what we have here, instead of working with 425 times 19, that's kind of hard to think about 19 groups of it, but I can certainly think of 10 groups of that because I'm really good at multiplying by 10. I know that it's just like having another 0 after this, right? There's a 0 in the ones place, and the rest of these digits all just get moved over one place value to the left. So instead of 425, I'm going to have 4,250. I still have that 425, but it got moved over one place value. So the 400 is now moved over to 4,000, the 20 is moved over to 200, and the 5 is moved over to 5 tens, which is 50, right? And then we have a 0 in the ones place. So I can do that pretty quick in my head, what 425 times 10 is. It's 4,250. Now, I know that 19 groups, 19 is really close to 20. So I'm going to say, well, what would 425 times 20, what would 20 groups of 425 be? Which would just be this 425 times 10 times 2, right? Because 20 is just 2 times 10, right? It's just two more groups. So I'm going to take this 4,250, which is 10 groups. I'm going to multiply it by 2, and I'm going to have 20 groups, which is 8,500. Now, of course, that is not how many groups there are. There's only 19, right? So I'm going to take one group away. So one less group of 425. So I'm going to take that 8,500. I'm going to subtract 425. And even in my head, I can say, well, that's going to be 8,075, right? Because 8,500 minus 400 is going to be 8,100. And then that 100 minus 25 is going to give us 75. So that's the way that I can figure that out. I didn't have to use the area model, and I'm not going to use the standard algorithm. I don't need a calculator. I can do all of that pretty much on my head or relatively quickly with pencil and paper. Another way that this could look, and this is still using multiplication clusters, but just another way of thinking about it, I could think, well, this 425 times 19, that's like saying 425 groups of 19, right? It's the same thing. So I say, well, what's 100 groups of 19? Well, that'd be 1900 or 1900, right? I just move this over two place values because it's times 100. So, but I don't want to know 100. I want to get closer to 425. So times 4, right? 4 times 100 is going to give us 400. So 400 times 19 is the same as 1900 times 4. That's going to give us 7,600. Getting closer, but I still need to know another 25 groups of 19. Well, I can think, and this is kind of stuff I can do in my head. I can go, well, I already know that 100 groups is 19. So that means 50 groups, or I'm sorry, 100 groups is going to be 1900. So 50 groups is going to be half as many, right, groups of 19. So half of 1900 would be 950. And I knew that in my head because I know that 900 is 1800 and 1550 is 100. So that's how I got that. And then half of the 50 groups would be 25 groups, which means the product would also be half. So half of 950, well, I know that half of 900 is 450, and then half of 50 is 25. I put those together, so is 475. So now I know that I've got here that 4 groups of 1900 or 400 groups, right, of 19 is 7600. And so that's the 400 part. 19. And then I know the the 25 groups of 19 is 475, right? So now that's this part. So I just have to put these two together, right? Just got to add them up. And if I do that, 7,600 plus another 400 is going to give me 8,000, and then the 75 is 8,075. You'll see it's the same product as over here. And that's the thing. We can use many, many, many different strategies. As long as we get to the same place, we're in a good spot. So what I want you to do is see if you can, and I know you can because there's many, many ways to do this, find another way to cluster the multiplication facts to find the product of 425 times 19. Good luck. See you tomorrow. Bye.